not a part of this that you guys have heard before. Oh, there we go. Hi, everyone at home. Welcome, everyone here. You guys all get gold stars for coming out on a, what is it, 5 degrees or something like that?
Yeah, I regretted brushing my teeth right before I left the house. I was like, oh, it's so much colder now.
Keep your mouth closed.
And that's what it's like now. We just for another hour and a half.
Yeah. Is it warm enough in here? We usually turn on this little heater. As we sit and become still, our body temps drop a little. Here we go. So there's a section in the Robert Holden book, Be Happy, about receiving. And I'm not going to read the entire chapter to you, even though I would really like to. I'm just going to read a very specific section. And I think it's 3 pages. Yes. So he conducts an hour-long meditation in his happiness course that is called the receiving meditation. He says, the receiving meditation takes up 1 whole session. In the coffee break before the session, everyone is asked to leave the room so the Happiness Project team can prepare it. All the chairs are removed. Space is cleared. The room is decorated with flowers, fragrances, and candlelight. Our musician, Robert Norton, begins to play. There's a stillness that comes over the room that is just beautiful. And then we're ready to receive the students. Outside the room, the students gather. I explain that the room has been prepared for their delight. The room is now a symbol for a world that is full of gifts to enjoy. The floor is covered with over 100 beautifully decorated signs, like golden leaves, cherry blossoms, red hearts, each of which carries a theme. The main themes are acceptance, love, success, creativity, wisdom, grace, joy, freedom, and peace. Other themes include miracles, healing, money, God, abundance, inspiration, help, and also some blank canvases. The actual meditation takes 1 hour. I explain that when you enter the room, you should go to any theme you are drawn to. You may then sit, stand, or lie down on the sign that represents that theme. If nothing appeals to you, I encourage you to go to one of the blank canvases and to write your own theme on it. I also explain that you're free to move around the room at any point in the receiving meditation. For example, you may wish to spend 20 minutes on joy, 20 minutes on abundance, and another 20 minutes on God. Or you may wish to visit as many themes as possible in 60 minutes. Of all the themes I've mentioned above, which theme would you pick first? Hold this theme in your mind as you continue to read. Carry it in your heart as I share with you what we do next. As soon as everyone is settled on a theme, the meditation begins. I encourage you to start by taking a deep, long, full breath in. Deepening the breath is symbolic. The in-breath represents your willingness to breathe life in. We are a generation of shallow breathers, and this reflects a consciousness of lack. By breathing more deeply, you become more conscious, more present, and more receptive. On the next inhalation, imagine you are breathing in the essential qualities of your chosen theme. Imagine that joy, for instance, touches every cell of your body, lights up every part of your mind, and blesses your heart. The out-breath represents letting go. On the next exhalation, imagine yourself letting go of any old resistance to joy. The out-breath also represents radiance and sharing. Imagine, therefore, breathing in joy and breathing out joy, receiving and giving in equal measure. As you do this, I encourage you to connect consciously with your theme, to visualize yourself being with it, and to welcome it wholeheartedly into your life. The rest of the instructions for the receiving meditation remain very simple because the art of receiving is not about a technique. It is about intention. Receiving is not about hard work. It is about willingness. It is not about making it happen. It is about letting it happen. To receive is not about labor, effort, and sweat. It's about surrender. The best way to describe the receiving meditation is to share some stories of people's experiences over the years. Selecting which stories to share with you is the most difficult decision I have had to make in writing this book. I could share with you 100 life-changing stories, all of which I'm certain you would find deeply inspiring. Instead, I've picked just 5, each of which illustrates an important lesson on both the real meaning of receiving and how to be a better receiver. Story number 1 is called Giving Up Struggle. Ben Bartle, a property developer in his late 40s, chose money as his theme for the receiving meditation. He stood on the same spot for the entire meditation. 2 days later, he applied to enter the TV game show Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. He was accepted. He won his qualifying round, and he went on to win $250,000. Ben brought his winner's check with him to our next session. When I asked him to identify what had been the real key to his success, he replied, "I consciously gave up my old addiction to struggle." Ben shared how he had used a struggle story most of his life to reinforce some unworthy self-concepts. He said, "In the meditation, I realized like never before that no one benefits from my sense of struggle and lack. I visualized myself being free of struggle and being the truly generous person I want to be in this world." Ben discovered in the receiving meditation that to receive is to be willing to give up all unnecessary struggle and lack. Ben was very generous in publicly thanking the Course for playing its part in his good fortune. His generosity caused a nice problem for us in that the phone lines at our offices did not stop ringing for days. Ben decided that the Happiness Course works. He has since served as a team member on several courses. Story number 2 is Giving Up Sacrifice. Julia, a nurse at a London hospital, focused on abundance and miracles for her meditation. 2 days before, Julia had sold some personal articles, including a pair of silver earrings to help finance her mother's treatment for cancer. After doing the receiving meditation, Julia went across town to a nurse's gala ball. She entered the prize drawing, and she won second prize. Her prize was a pair of silver earrings made by Tiffany & Company. When I asked Julia to identify the real miracle of her experience, she came up with 2 miracles. The first miracle was that she entered the drawing at all. "I normally don't enter anything," she said, "because I always think I will lose. But having just done the receiving meditation, I went for it." The second miracle was about giving up sacrifice. Julia said, "In my professional and personal life, I often take on the role of helper, and then I neglect myself, and I am of no help to anyone. In my meditation, I visualized myself being free of self-sacrifice, and it felt so good that I almost felt guilty, but not quite." Story number 3 is Giving Up Resentment. Tanya, a concert pianist, chose forgiveness and love in the receiving meditation. The main focus for her meditation was her relationship with her estranged father, whom she had not been in contact with for 18 months. That night, as she opened the door to her apartment, the phone began to ring. She picked it up. "Tanya speaking," she said. The caller said, "Hello, darling, it's your father here." It was the first time that her father had called in 18 years. Did I say months earlier? 18 years, had not been in contact. When Tanya shared her story with us, she acknowledged she had to decide if the timing of her father's call was either a random bit of synchronicity or the miraculous effect of her meditation. She said, "In the receiving meditation, I witnessed with total clarity how parts of my life will continue to remain on hold until I forgive my father. I prayed for forgiveness, and I made up my mind to make contact with my dad. I also prayed for help with the fear of doing this. I believe my prayers were answered because he made contact with me first. Tanya learned that the receiving meditation sometimes starts with letting go. She also discovered that shift happens when you let go. Story number 4, giving up fear. Andrea won a free place in the course after entering a competition in a magazine. Clearly, Andrea already displayed a healthy capacity to receive. During the receiving meditation, she focused on purpose, success, and joy. A week later, she saw an advertisement for a senior editor position at a national magazine. She applied for the job. I almost didn't do it, she said. Much to her surprise, she got an interview. She was then asked back for a second interview and a third. She got the job, plus a 300% pay increase. Andrea identified that the real gift of her meditation was giving up the fear of rejection. I have been so afraid of rejection that I have only been to 3 interviews in my entire life, she said. Andrea got every job she was interviewed for, but she also recognized that she hadn't aimed very high because of her fear of being rejected. In her meditation, she saw how the fear of rejection was blocking her chances of receiving. This happiness course has given me the strength to stop rejecting myself, to stop hiding, and to be more present in my life, said Andrea. Andrea had decided to show up more in her life, and the world had expressed its thanks. Last story, number 5, giving up pride. Louise focused on healing and help in her meditation, and it saved her life. When I invited the class to share any stories of receiving, Louise was the first person to raise her hand. She shared that she suspected for a while that her health was suffering, but I kept ignoring the messages, she said, until I did the receiving meditation, and that's when I got a strong internal message to book a doctor's appointment immediately. She was diagnosed with breast cancer. Her doctor told her she had very nearly left her appointment too late for her treatment to be effective. When I asked Louise to identify any lessons she had learned from doing the receiving meditation, she named 2. The first lesson was giving up unhealthy independence. She said, I've always been too independent for my own good. I know that this ultimately holds me back from being a better receiver. The second lesson was giving up unhealthy pride. Louise explained how she felt too proud to ever ask for help. Her pride had to do with wanting to feel strong, but it was, in fact, a weakness. Louise's treatment for breast cancer was completely successful. She allowed herself to receive the best possible help every step of the way. On the 10th anniversary of the Happiness Project, I received a congratulations card from Louise. She wrote in the card, "The Happiness course taught me to give up separateness in return for greater happiness. I often think of your mantra, if you are alive, you need help. Thank you for helping me to receive. Thank you for helping me to live more fully and for longer." Let's see if there's any tidbits. There's little bolded quotes. One of them is, "For as long as you do not receive, you will be afraid that giving equals loss." And I'll just read this one little piece about identification. This really resonated with me. It fits with our mindfulness discussions. On this level, or on the being level, to receive is about being in tune with your true self. This level is more than just getting and seeing. It is about letting yourself experience the gifts of your own original nature. It is about enjoying the love in your heart, your lightness of being, your natural wisdom, and the miracle of your own existence. This level is not about out there. It is about who you are. It is about tuning in to the real self that will outlive your ego, your personality, your self-image, and every other learned concept, self-concept. Hence, to receive is to give up all ego thoughts of unworthiness. This level of receiving is like a meeting point with your unconditioned self. To receive means to know who you are. It is to see yourself as a receptacle that welcomes all of God's gifts. It is to see yourself as a receiver who allows all of creation to flow through you. To receive is the beginning of creativity in all its forms. Receptivity is an act of creation. Ultimately, to receive is to realize that not only is the world full of gifts for you, but you are also full of gifts for the world. An inquiry into the true nature of receiving also reveals that receiving is a prelude to giving. Receiving and giving are two sides of the same coin. They are the yin and yang of creation. They are the vice versa of abundance. In other words, your capacity to receive is what determines your capacity to give. And the more freely you give, the more freely you are given to. If you are not good at receiving, you will not give yourself fully to a relationship or to a job, for instance, because you will be afraid that giving will deplete you. The only way to keep giving and not receive is to be in sacrifice. And that can only last so long before you feel like you have nothing left to give. Also, in truth, no one can give what he or she has not received. So what now? Well, you're not receiving and you're not giving, and so you're barely living. The prognosis does not look great, unless, that is, you make a decision to receive. This one simple decision made several times a day is the perfect restorative for taking back the happiness of your true nature. So, I think with all of the messages we get through the media and from people around us about danger and lack and what's not right in the world, our brains have this very quick tendency to gravitate to the stuff that's bad. That's that survival part of us. It's always looking out for danger, and we're like Velcro for the bad stuff and Teflon for the good. And so we continually, for the rest of our lives, we will have this issue because our biology is set up. It sets us up to see the negative very easily. And lack is one of those negatives that I think people see very easily, and they have belief structures aligned with lack that help reinforce it and help keep creating lack in their lives. And being able to open to receiving is one of the easiest ways to create that flow, to help that flow happen where we can give and receive more easily. It's a flow. It's not a one-way street. We might feel like it's easier to give than to receive, but that's something that our false beliefs or our hidden beliefs tell us. It's not actually easier. We wind up feeling like we're sacrificing, and that puts us not in a good position. Eventually, we'll grind to a halt. We won't want to keep giving in that way if we're not also receiving. So I'm curious, did any of the cards that he cited for the thing to do the receiving meditation on, did any of them resonate with you? Did one pop up for anybody?
Yeah, they were.
Oh. And it's not the one your mind tells you you should. Oh, where I didn't put my bookmark back in. There it is. Okay, so we have acceptance, love, success, creativity, wisdom, grace, joy, freedom, peace, miracles, healing, money, God, abundance, inspiration, help, and then blanks for ones that you come up with yourself. So you don't have to say what it is, but see if you can just notice as I read through that list, something lower than the head, the mind, something down here maybe felt a pull toward one of those things. And what if you just for a couple of minutes, just right now, because we usually do a little grounding exercise, but this could take the place of that. Imagine that theme, whatever that is, touches every cell of your body, lights up every part of your mind, and blesses your heart. And then on the inhalation, imagine you breathing in the essential qualities of that theme. And then it touches every cell of your body, lights up every part of your mind, and blesses your heart. And then on the exhalation, imagine you let go of any resistance to experiencing that thing. And you can also imagine or remember the out breath represents radiance and sharing. So you're breathing in the thing and breathing out that thing, kind of like when we do the Tonglen meditation. He encourages you to connect consciously with your theme, visualize yourself being with it, and then welcome it wholeheartedly into your life. And it's really like the rest of the meditation that we do in here. It's about letting it happen, not making it happen, not about efforting and labor, just about surrender and noticing. He says the meditation is very simple. The art of receiving is not about technique, it's just about intention. And that's the same thing as when we do Tonglen, same thing when we do the loving kindness meditation. So imagine breathing in the chosen theme and then breathing it out. So you're receiving it, and then you're also sharing it with the world when you breathe it out. And just notice what the experience of that is like. What's it like to fully connect with this thing that you want to open yourself up to? Breathe it in and have so much of it inside that you have no choice but to breathe it out as well, to share it with the world. And then just rest. Just relax. Feel yourself inside your skin. And then feel yourself in this room. And feel yourself inside your skin. And feel yourself in the room again. So I did it with you guys. The receiving meditation. That was pretty cool. Kind of gave me goosebumps.
Is that really liberating idea that it's not limited?
Yeah.
It's not a zero-sum game. It's just, it's an infinite amount.
Yeah, it's the opposite of what we're taught in school, right? If I give you 2 apples and I only have 2 apples, then I have none. That was very interesting.
It took me a while to do it and then kind of remember, oh yeah, I'm just receiving. I don't have to direct it.
Yeah, control
anywhere.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like I chose acceptance. I was like, yeah, you have to accept this. It was a little too harsh. It was like, yeah, you had to accept the stuff that you really don't want to. I was thinking more. I was directing it towards the stuff that I didn't like, that I feel like and then I was like, wait, that's not the point of what we're doing here. Okay, just let it, come in. And then other things started popping up of oh yeah, it's not just accepting the bad stuff, it's accepting the good stuff. And then, but then, that was still a directing kind of thing. And then I was like, okay, just let it come wherever it needs to come and not feel like I need to be aware of what it's doing or trying to think it instead
You
of.
don't have to tell it where to go.
Yeah.
Tell it what to do. Nice. I did mine on money.
Did mine on creativity.
Yeah.
Well, let us know if you come back on when the game show.
Yeah. I just thought it was really interesting because, typically it's one of those, because we've all got messages of lack to some degree. All the messages were fed all over the place. And, when you start a business, there's lots of messages of, you got to work really hard for a really long time before you get anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I've kind of bucked those messages, and I think they still have an effect though when everybody's telling you, oh no, you have to do it this way and this way and this way, or you're never going to make it, you're never going to succeed. And so to do your own thing and do it the way you think is right is kind of risky. And so all I did was imagine the flow, the money coming in and then it going back out, and the flow just got bigger and bigger. And it made me laugh because it was just so easy to have it just, But I think usually we imagine it a one-way flow, like this slow trickle that comes in, and then all the demands causing it to go out, and it's very a contracted feeling around money if we feel like we don't have enough of it. And it was really interesting to experiment with letting that flow just keep getting bigger and bigger.
That's one I'd like to I want to do some more.
Yeah. Did you guys think that this one was a little bit fun
Yeah.
to play with? Not sure.
And freeing.
Mm-hmm. I think if it's not forced, if it's allowing, you just imagine allowing the flow of whatever that thing is to be coming in and going out.
I think I'll have an easier time doing it again after this. After I, hit that part that was like, oh yeah, I'm still trying to force
Don't work
it
so
too
hard.
much, trying to
Yeah.
point it in the right direction. In the right direction.
Right direction.
I think I had trouble with this. I went through a couple different things, but I don't know, there was just a lot of resistance to both ways, to receiving it and to letting it go.
Mm.
So then I jumped to something else. I thought, okay, I'll try this one. There's just resistance all over the place.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I think in that kind of an instance, it might be valuable to see what happens if you just wait a little bit. What happens if you imagine the receiving and the flow out and the flow in, and notice the resistance that's there, and see what happens if you hang out there with the flow and the resistance, and see maybe something shifts. I don't necessarily think that means stop. I think it might even mean go. So let's have a little break, and then we'll come back and do our guided meditation. 5 minutes?
When you're talking about the money one, it reminded me of this book that I loved that I read, or I got it on tape actually. Marianne Williamson wrote The Law of Divine Compensation.
Oh,
Have you heard of that?
I don't know.
It's a good one. I think I just stumbled upon it at the library. I think I was just looking for some of her stuff, and it was available on tape. And it's her talking, and it was really good. But it is a lot about those kind of ingrained sort of beliefs about your worth and value, and the exchange of, that's really just the exchange of energy.
Yeah.
When you're opening a business, and
yeah.
It was interesting.
Yeah, there's lots of nice ways to frame the giving and receiving. If there was some author, I think I have the book on my shelf still at home, who framed the giving and receiving as a sort of money is just this token, it's just a paper. And you imagine it as an expression of appreciation for whatever the thing is that you do. And so, we've got less of a barrier to the idea of expression of appreciation than we do money. Somehow money takes on this other sinister, how much I'm worth or deserve or whatever. But if somebody says it, pays you, gives you your paycheck, or pays you for your services, or gives you a gift, and you think of it as all this is a different form of energy that is really just appreciation. It's all different forms of appreciation. And what if you saw the receiving meditation the same way? What if all of those things that you're trying to receive or imagine receiving is just the universe, God, right? Your authentic self expressing appreciation, right? And what if you could receive all the appreciation for you, the unique gift that you are? And that receiving is fuel. It's fuel for it fires us up. It motivates us and fills us up so that we can give. So the more that we're able to receive, the more that we can give, which is the thing that we really want to do, right? When it comes down to it, we can have all the nice things in the world, and at some point we will eventually become bored out of our minds. And the only thing that's left is to give somehow, serve or give somehow. So we could just skip that step. Right? Freely receiving and freely giving.
Somebody gave me a hugging lesson once.
Yeah.
And, you know, because I have this tendency to give hugs. This is for you. She said, just take it in. And the end result, and it was a really powerful lesson, because the end result, and it's along these lines, but it's more physical. The end result is of just taking the hug is a closer connection and effectively more giving.
Yeah, it's
really
true. Is we can actually use giving to create distance, to create separation. Receiving is a very vulnerable thing. That's why it's difficult, right? Receiving, it makes us vulnerable. And yet, when we open up that door and we can start to receive freely, oh my gosh, it's amazing what comes in. I know to the extent that I've been able to do it, I mean, it's just, it feels like, oh my gosh, I can't possibly receive anymore, because I mean, it's like your heart will burst, because there's just so much of everything. And, you know, we can get stuck in our heads, and that door shuts where we're not able to feel or notice, be present for the receiving. But it's always there. We can open it back up at any time and let the flow in. We can live life from that place if we really want to. What I find when I work with people is that they need to manage that flow initially. They can't actually allow themselves to receive everything that they want. They have to start slowly. So you could think about that for yourself. If there's a block to receiving something that you know you really need to be able to receive, ask yourself, how much of it could I let myself receive right now? 10%, 20%, 50%? What percent of what's available, what's likely available, could I allow myself, give myself permission to receive right now? And then who knows, that number could grow, that the amount that we're willing to receive after we discover maybe it's not that bad, and maybe it's not too dangerous, then we can open the door a little bit wider for a little bit more and a little bit more.
Makes me think of like the blocks that like somebody could probably think like that they just aren't receiving it, not because they don't want it, you know, but they really are not allowing themselves to receive it and putting those, those obstacles in the way. So it's like the opposite effect. Like they probably think like there's nothing to receive. I mean, at least I can think of like, I think I've been in that situation. I think I know people have been, that I can see like that, gosh, you have so much you could receive, but you keep yourself really busy, or you feel like you need to give too much, or, and then just those little tiny pieces that just add up, like how hard it is for some people even just receive a compliment that you come back with like, oh, no, it really was nothing, or oh God, no, I feel like I'm so fat, and like whatever those little things are that people do, like they can't just say like, thank you.
Yeah.
Where does that come from? I mean, I got the impression that there's a lot of that among like junior high school age girls. Like at some point you start to feel like it's not okay, because if
You can't like yourself too much.
can't like yourself too much, or there's something wrong. And
Stuck up.
people will
Arrogance.
knock you down.
Yeah.
Right. That's one of the hidden beliefs. It's on the list in the book, that if I'm too happy, I make myself a target.
Yeah.
If I have too much, if I'm too happy.
And maybe
I
at some
become
point
a
in your life
target.
it's true, but
Well, of course, there will be some people who are operating from a very, very ego-based place, right? That are gonna they won't be too happy, or will compare themselves, and yeah. People who can't stand for other people to be too much happier than them, they're not going to stick around if you're really happy. And is that a bad thing?
But there's people, I think, that ascribe to that school of thought because they think if you're happy with yourself, that's going to lead to complacency and not striving anymore.
Right. That's another false belief that comes when we consider self-compassion, when we think about being nice to ourselves. That voice pops up, ego pops up and says, oh, it's all going to go to hell if you don't keep the crack in the whip, man.
I didn't see the movie, but I don't know if anyone watched the awards last night. But they kept showing previews for that one movie, and it was so bothersome to me.
Which?
Whiplash.
Oh, yeah.
And the
I've seen the
teacher,
previews.
who just kept saying good job is like the most damaging thing you can do to
Oh,
somebody,
yeah.
because it makes them stop trying.
Yeah.
It was just.
it's a very, I talked about it, it's a very disturbing
Oh, you did see it?
movie.
I don't think I could watch it.
But there's a flip side of it too, and that is that the kid shows, it kind of reminds you of what it is to be entirely motivated. Yes, the teacher was vile, but the kid stayed with it because the only thing he wanted to do was get to the limit of his ability as a drummer.
Yeah. So the instructor in that movie would be an example of the harshest inner critic, the voice of that harshest inner critic saying, good job is dangerous. Yeah. But in truth, it doesn't work that way. Fear is not, and the research bears this out, fear is not the best motivator. Not long term, not if we want to keep at something or pursue something long term. So I guess we'll get started then. Would you like a blanket?
No, I'm okay.
Okay. I have a nice fuzzy cashmere blanket in my office. Are you sure?
Thank you.
Okay.
I know. Catch up. I did. went to that Sarah orientation. At brunch on Saturday, I was at North Star. And she walked in and was happy to be there too.
Okay. I've got it set for 24. Is that okay? Okay. We'll start like we usually do, turning our attention to the top of our heads. And our only job is to notice, and just noticing whatever we find there at the top of our heads, whatever sensations we notice, or anything at all that's there. You could notice heaviness or coolness or warmth or tingling or tightness. Or vibration. And you're just noticing what the top of your head feels like tonight. And when you're ready, you can let your attention drift down and begin to notice your face. And noticing those areas that carry tension, the forehead, eyes, mouth. And you could experiment with seeing what happens if you let your tongue go totally limp in the bottom of your mouth. Just noticing whatever shift occurs from that little bit of letting go of your tongue. And just notice any remaining sensations that get your attention there in your face, anywhere at all in your face. And see if you can just allow them to be as they are. And when you've got a good sense of what your face feels like, you can gently start to move your attention around to the sides of your head and see what you notice there. And if you like, you can imagine allowing your ears to drop. And see what that ever so slight sensation of letting your ears fall does to the rest of the sides of your head. Noticing your temples, your ears, jaw. And as you feel ready, start to move your attention gently around to notice the back of your head and the back of your neck. And initially just noticing what you find there. we can't easily relax those areas. So first you're just taking note of what's present there. You may notice nothing, or you may notice tension or tightness, coolness or warmth, tingling, aching. And if there's discomfort there, you can make a request for relaxation and then open to receive whatever happens as a result of that request. Just waiting and noticing what happens. And as you feel ready, start to let your attention drift down and out across your shoulders and down the length of your arm, pausing at each joint. You can stop and notice your shoulder joints, and then scan a little further down your arm, bicep, tricep. Notice your elbows. And then scan across your forearms and pause at your wrists. And then notice your hands and your fingers all the way to the tips. You're just noticing what shoulders, arms, and hands feel like right now. Without too much effort. You don't have to work too hard. You're just tuning in and seeing if there's anything there you notice. You don't have to make anything be there. And when you feel like you've got a good sense of your shoulders, your arms, and your hands, pull your attention back in to notice the core of your body, scanning from your throat all the way down to where you're seated in the chair, noticing your chest, heart area, diaphragm, the belly, all the way down to your hips. And then scanning the back, noticing upper back, mid back, lower back. And just see what you notice there. Sometimes this is our armor that we carry through the day. And what would happen if you set down that armor? What would happen if you allowed the throat to loosen and you visualize an opening in the heart area, a softening of the belly, relaxation of the belly? A release of the tension in the hips. Just let them support you there in the chair. And if there's any area that doesn't want to relax, you just notice that. You don't have to fight with it. You won't have to focus on it for the entire time. You're just taking note of it for this moment. And then letting gravity pull your attention further down and feel the chair beneath you as you begin to scan your legs, the tops of your thighs, the backs, and then pause to notice your knees. And then notice your shins and calves. Your ankles and your heels. And then notice the length of your foot all the way to the tips of your toes. Just noticing whatever sensations you find there. Coolness or warmth. Tingling, tiredness, restlessness, relaxation. Whatever you find, you're just noticing. Feeling the solidness of the ground beneath your feet while you notice what your legs feel like. And when you feel like you've got a good sense of your legs, let your attention start to drift toward the place where you notice breathing happening. Gently let it move toward the sensation of breathing. And just notice for a moment, where is that spot that your attention moved to or toward that signifies breathing for you? Not trying to change the breath in any way, just noticing that breathing in and breathing out is happening. Noticing the space at the end of the out breath, that pause that's there before you start to inhale. Just noticing, not working too hard at it. Not working too little, not working too hard. And as you continue to notice breathing happening, see if you can open your awareness or receive other things that are happening in the present moment. Allowing yourself to notice perhaps sounds, temperature, feeling of your clothes, your shoes, the chair. And other things that you might not ordinarily consider objects to notice in the present, like restlessness or sleepiness or boredom or any other challenging emotion or stream of thought that might come. You can notice it. It's as real as anything else that's happening in the present moment, and you just notice that it's there. And you can explore the quality of any of those things if the interest is there for you. What does sleepiness feel like? What parts of my body tell me there's sleepiness? What's the actual sensation of sleepiness? And can I stay awake and notice the sensations? And as always, if you like, you can add this question, introduce this inquiry into your meditation space. What happens if I allow everything to be as it is in this moment? What's the experience of that? What happens if I cease struggle? What if I stop exerting any effort to concentrate or make it quiet? What would that be like? If I stopped trying to do anything and instead just notice whatever's here in this moment, what would that be like? What if I let go even of the meditator? Let the meditator fall into the back seat and just continue to be with this noticing what happens when I ask this question. Am I truly and deeply allowing everything to be as it is? What happens if I allow everything to be as it is again in this moment? And now again in this moment, what happens if I allow everything to be as it is? Without struggling, without efforting or trying to control, simply asking the question, what if, simply imagining what that would be like. Noticing what happens in the body and the mind from posing this simple question. Not forcing anything. And just noticing where attention goes and letting it go where it likes. That's all the effort that you need to exert, is just to notice. Noticing what happens when you let go of the controller, just for this small space of time. Conducting your own experiment. Asking the question as often as needed. What happens if I allow everything to be as it is right now? What's the experience of that? And just take one more minute now as we reach the end of this meditation to savor the silence, to be with the space. To notice and remember again, you didn't have to do anything to create this silence, this peace, this space. You only had to do nothing. And when you're ready, you can go ahead and send some energy into your arms and legs and some movement. Offer some movement to your fingers and toes, hands and feet. And take as much time as you need to transition out of your meditation space. It's nice to see all of you this evening. Thank you for coming. Namaste.
Yeah, it's good to be back.